Here's Farhan Lalji from Seattle. The Seahawks found a way to win, but 44-year-old Philip Rivers made it a lot closer than many thought it would be. What did you make of Rivers' first start in 5 years?
Jay, I think that Rivers did fine. He showed poise, and that's really what the Colts were looking for more than anything else when they brought him into this situation. Kind of like I try to do whenever I do your show. I want to show some poise. I get so excited at the thought of coming on the air with the Jay Onrait, Canadian television icon, that sometimes I get a little bit ahead of myself. But, you know, when you look at 44-year-old Philip Rivers, his first game in 5 years, this was a big ask against an elite Seattle defense. And I think there was no moment in this game that was too big for him. When you look at Shane Steichen, the head coach, he was fairly smart in terms of how he called this game, especially early on. They really wanted to protect Rivers. They were also banged up along the offensive line, so they didn't want to put too much in the pass game. On every single possession in this game, the Colts began with a run, other than that final Hail Mary. In most cases, it was 2 runs. They really wanted to control time of possession. They had a 2-to-1 edge in that area in the first half of this game. And in terms of pushing the ball downfield, they really didn't ask Rivers to do much of that. There were 9 targets to running backs out of the backfield. But when you look at what happened down the field, there were only 6 attempts of more than 10 air yards. One of those was that last Hail Mary. He completed only 2 of them. And quite honestly, I think on the others, he showed a bit of a lack of arm strength. And Seattle didn't necessarily speak in those terms, but they did talk about wanting to kind of feel him out and see what he had to offer. And when they realized what the offense was going to look like, it allowed them to settle in and really dial in what they needed to call in order to get through this game.
So this would best be described as an ugly win for Seattle. What went wrong for the Seahawks for much of this game, and how were the Seahawks able to adjust and get the win?
Yeah, I think for Seattle, they got in their own way in the first half. And you look at situational football, I know that can be a bit of a coaching cliche, but it was pretty evident in the second quarter of this game because you saw 2 situations where Seattle's kick return units took penalties. So now they start with the ball deep in their own territory. The offense doesn't support them. 3 and out in both situations. They kick the ball away. And now the Colts have great field position. And when you've got a limited offense, you need that type of situation. And it was able to result in 10 Indianapolis points, which almost proved to be the difference in this game. And then you got into the second half, and I think the biggest adjustment Seattle made is they threw the ball more. They're so committed to running here in Seattle in terms of their play calling. They lead the league in terms of just their commitment to the run as far as their run-pass ratio is concerned. Only 12 pass attempts in the first half, 24 in the second half. It was a 1-score game for the most part, so it's not like they were in desperate comeback mode, but when you look at the Colts, they were the 29th ranked pass defense coming into this game, and they were down their 2 starting corners. They really needed to attack those guys on the outside, and you saw more play action in the second half. You saw them get the ball out quick to their top wide receivers as opposed to just going to the tight ends all the time. So I think that really proved well for Seattle in the second half of this game in terms of their ability to adjust.
And now that sets up a much-anticipated Thursday night game between the Seahawks and Rams. How much do you think, looking ahead to that matchup, impacted Sunday?
Jay, absolutely. It was a trap game. This is like me doing SportsCenter before your show. I'm looking ahead to the big show, you know, and I tend to just rush through the SportsCenter stuff. So that might have been a little bit of what happened here. And when you look at how well Seattle was playing defensively coming into this game, and now you've got another question mark at quarterback on the other side with Philip Rivers playing his first game in 5 years, you wouldn't blame them for thinking this might be a little bit easier said than done. They're not going to have that luxury next week against the Rams. I mean, they are so dynamic offensively, and at any point in the game, they can take over and strike with multiple touchdowns back to back to back. Matthew Stafford's playing on top of his game. He's in the MVP discussion. Seattle has been starting slow offensively in the last few weeks. This game was no different. They cannot get away with that next week. They almost pulled it off in LA earlier this season. If it weren't for a late turnover, this is a huge game for both teams at 10-3. Must win for Seattle if they want to claim the division.
And that massive game Thursday will be seen right here on TSN. Our show will follow the game. Thanks, Farhan.